My name is Adrienne Seitz, and I'm the Assistant Vice President for College Advancement, and I work specifically in alumni relations, parent relations, and donor relations. And I'm thrilled to be a part of this session today. This office is near and dear to my heart because I actually used to work in this office for the Center for Global Education many years ago, and know firsthand the incredible work and transformative opportunities that they provide. So I won't talk long. I just thought I'd introduce myself and also introduce my colleague Kim Longfellow, who is now I want to get your title correct here, sorry, program coordinator. But amongst other duties, including advising students, she's also the coordinator for bilateral exchange programs in Norway, at 2 different universities. Is that correct? Oh. So Kim is also a fellow alum. She graduated in 2016 and was actually valedictorian of her class, and then was a Fulbright teaching assistant. So comes to this office with great knowledge and experience about Gettysburg College, but also incredible international experience and great global knowledge and wherewithal. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to you, Kim, to share a little bit more about the Center for Global Education with our friends joining us here today.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. And thank you all for coming today to our virtual family weekend. I'm really excited to share with you all a little bit about my role at the Center for Global Education and also Gettysburg's commitment to global study as a part of the Gettysburg part of the Gettysburg education. So as Adrienne said, I'm a Gettysburg College alum. I graduated in the class of 2016, and I was thrilled and lucky to be hired back at my alma mater. So it's been really fun for me to get to come back to campus and get to experience, to have experienced life on campus as a student, and also to now kind of see that other side of things working at the college. So today I'm just going to begin with a little bit of background about Gettysburg's commitment to global study, and then I'll be handing it over to our student panels. We have 3 fantastic students here, Meg, Timothy, and Gari, who are going to talk a little bit about their global study experiences, where they studied, why they chose to study at those programs, and to include global study as part of their education, and a little bit about the impact that it's had, since they've come back. And then after that point, we'll be opening up to any questions that you might have about global study too. So just to start with a little bit of background about global study at Gettysburg College. Gettysburg College is consistently ranked among the top 10 undergraduate liberal arts institutions nationwide for semester length global study. Gettysburg has a firm institutional commitment to global study as an accessible and integral part of Gettysburg education for every student. And I do mean as a part of, not in addition to. So when your student meets with a global study advisor, such as myself or my colleagues, Rebecca and Jesse, we work with each student individually through advising appointments to make sure that students in every single academic department can find a program that fulfills their academic, personal, and professional goals, in addition to fulfilling major, minor, and Gettysburg curriculum requirements. So we work closely with students, their academic advisors, their professors, and also our program providers to make sure that students have a plan for global study well before they get on a plane. So then that way they'll know how credits are coming back and how it fits into that 4-year plan. And so students can feel confident that studying abroad or studying globally at Gettysburg does not mean an additional 9th semester. It's part of that 4-year plan. If your student chooses to study globally on Gettysburg's campus, they will not be alone. There is a strong culture of global study at Gettysburg, with over 60% of every graduating class studying globally for 1 semester or more. So breaking that percentage down a little bit, who are those students? So every year we have students in every single academic department on campus study globally. So that includes students in STEM fields, that includes students in business organization and management, that includes political science, theater, students at Sunderman Conservatory. For either any students who are here today or parents of students, whether your student knows their major or not at the time, there is no major that a student could have where they walk into our office and say, I'm majoring in this, where we would tell them like, oh, sorry, you're out of luck. We don't have programs for that. Our double majors on campus frequently study globally. I myself was a double major when I was a student at Gettysburg. Our athletic coaches are very supportive and huge advocates for global study. One of my favorite fun facts is that when our women's lacrosse team won nationals in 2017, every graduating senior on that team had also studied globally while they're at college. So you don't have to choose between being an athlete or study global study. In addition, students who are in ROTC also frequently study globally as well. We also have domestic global study options. So that includes options for like intensive internship components or internships in Washington, D.C., as well as marine biology focused semesters at Duke University and Woods Hole Research Station. Gettysburg College also has a commitment for global study being financially accessible to all of our students. So for any affiliated global study program, students continue to pay Gettysburg tuition, room, and board, and any financial aid or scholarships that you receive at Gettysburg transfer over to that global study semester as well. We provide students on affiliated programs with a flight credit to assist with the cost of a round trip flight for their first global study semester, as well as a meal credit to support the cost of any meals that are not provided by the program. Our staff actually or regularly support students applying for institutional as well as national scholarships, such as the Gilman Scholarship, Freeman Asia, or the Boren Scholarship. And ultimately, so whether you or your student are interested in studying in England, Argentina, or Mongolia, or Uganda, or Norway, you know exactly what you're paying beforehand, and you can plan from day one of your student being on campus. So we want to make sure that students are choosing their programs driven by their particular academic, personal, and professional goals, not just the price point of a particular program. And I definitely want to take a second to talk a little bit about global study kind of now. You know, I'd be remiss not to address the reason why we're meeting here on Zoom instead of enjoying the beautiful fall foliage on Gettysburg's campus. So many people might be wondering if COVID-19 kind of precludes global study, especially at a time where, you know, many of us may not have traveled outside of our homes too much, especially, you know, and let alone outside of the country. So Gettysburg has been taking a very case by case, program by program, country by country approach to global study. So we have on campus a International Travel Risk Assessment Committee, ITRAC, that's composed of several key members of campus who are working together to monitor key health and safety metrics around the world, including those by the Department of State, the CDC, the World Health Organization. CGE staff are working really closely with our program providers to understand case rates in particular countries' healthcare infrastructure, the structure of that specific program, the number of students on that program, and modifications that the program can make to meet and exceed local health and safety requirements. And in addition, CGE advisors are taking in all of that information and meeting regularly with students one-on-one to discuss their specific situation, their specific needs, and their specific goals for global study as well. So we want to clearly communicate any program modifications or realities of the programs and build in as much flexibility for students to ensure that students and their families can make informed decisions about the best ways for them to navigate these times that we're living in. So if you are a student or if you have a student who's interested in global study, but just kind of not really sure what that looks like right now, I would highly, highly recommend that they request an appointment with a CGE advisor. So that's either myself or one of my colleagues, where we can really talk about the questions that you or your student have about your specific situation. So ultimately, our goal as an office at the end of the day is not necessarily to require that every single student or 100% of students study abroad. We don't institutionally require global study for all students because we recognize that every student has a different background, different experiences, and different goals during their 4 years at Gettysburg. But our mission as an office is to make sure that global study is accessible to every student on campus, so that every student on campus can have that option available to them. So as challenging as a global pandemic is in so many areas of our lives, we at CGE strongly believe that global study remains a critical component in the Gettysburg education, and CGE is here to help students and families prepare for their Gettysburg journey wherever that takes them. So I know I've kind of just scratched the surface about global study at Gettysburg, but I thought it would be good to, for me to take a little bit of a break, and I'm going to turn it over to 3 Gettysburg students who have studied in a whole variety of different programs in different countries and had different experiences. So we're joined today by Meg, Timothy, and Gari. And I'm going to actually let each of you introduce yourselves. And I think if it's all right for me to just sort of pick a person, I think, Timothy, I will start with you.
Yeah, so hi guys, my name is Timothy Wilson. I am a senior originally from Amerenik, New York, which is right outside New York City. I studied political science and sociology with a minor in Spanish, and I'm also in the process of picking up a peace and justice studies minor. On campus, I work for the Office of Admissions as a tour guide, day host, information session presenter. I'm also a part of the student leadership team, so I help oversee the tour guide program. I also am the former president of the campus activities board, did that for both my sophomore and junior years when I was not studying abroad. I also work in the Office of Student Activities and Greek Life as a student programmer this year, and help essentially just put on programs for the campus community, both online and in person. And then I'm the managing co-editor of the Gettysburg Social Science Review, which is one of our academic journals. And then I studied abroad in the fall of 2019, so a year ago at this point, in Salamanca, Spain. My program was a language intensive program, meaning that all of my classes were taught in Spanish, and I did a homestay with a family. I got the opportunity to take classes at the university in my town. And I would not trade that experience for the world. It was an amazing experience. I had a host mom and a host dad and 2 host brothers, which I think really impacted my experience there, because when I first got there, you're moving to another country, you're with people who don't speak the same language as you, specifically for me. And it was definitely like that adjustment period. But my 2 host brothers in Spain, they actually have to take English or a second language from the 2nd grade on. So they did understand English, but they were practice for Spanish. So if I ever got to the point where I didn't know a word or a phrase or something, I could ask them and they could translate it for my host parents because they didn't speak any English. But they were able to show me around the city for the first 2 weeks and kind of before our classes were starting, and get me settled, which was really nice. And I really appreciated that because they essentially just took me in as one of their brothers. And then my host parents treated me as another son. I actually got super sick the 2nd week I was there, to a point where I could not get out of bed. And my host mom literally brought me food. She brought me warm milk, which was a really weird experience. I was like, who drinks warm milk? But she was like, you're gonna be fine. Do not worry. So that's a big overview of my program. As I mentioned, all my classes were taught in Spanish, which was really nice because it fulfilled a bunch of my requirements for my Spanish minor. I actually completed it abroad. Doing that program, it counts as 3 classes that you would take here at Gettysburg because you're spending an entire semester speaking Spanish. So I took 3 classes at Gettysburg, went abroad for a semester, and then I don't have to take any more Spanish classes. I was also able to take a sociology class abroad, a political science class abroad, religion, and a cinema class. So I really got a full view of Spanish politics, Spanish life, Spanish cinema, and really took a lot of my requirements that I didn't want to take here, there, which was really nice.
Great. Thanks so much. And I think with that, I will turn it over to Meg. Would you like to go next?
Sure. So my name's Megan Keene. I'm also a senior. I'm from outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I'm an environmental studies major and biology minor. And on campus, I'm a member of the women's swim team. I'm also a research assistant for the econ department, a peer learning associate for the ecology class. I'm the senior career ambassador at the Center for Career Engagement, and I'm currently working on an honors thesis for the environmental science department, which I'll talk about later, but it was heavily influenced by my decision to go abroad. And so I went abroad to Zanzibar, Tanzania, and I knew coming into Gettysburg that I wanted to study globally. I just did not have any clue where. And I actually decided on Zanzibar when I went to my department's internship and abroad presentation. And one girl talked about her experience in Zanzibar, and I knew from that moment that was the program for me. I studied ecology and natural resource management. And like Timothy, I took a language. I learned Swahili, which I've had no exposure to prior to going to Zanzibar. So within my homestay, I learned some Swahili, and I took classes while I was there. And by the end of it, I could speak mostly Swahili, but my homestay mother did speak a little bit of English, so I was lucky that she could help me out if I was really stuck. And in my homestay, I also had siblings there. There were 3 girls, younger girls, who helped me with my homework and really made me feel at home. So I would say my homestay was probably one of my most favorite experiences, and it really pushed me out of my comfort zone. It was something I never thought I'd do on Gettysburg, is go to Zanzibar and study Swahili, but honestly, it's influenced in the most positive of ways. While I was there, I did a research project on marine protected areas, and I loved it so much that when I came back to Gettysburg, I proposed my honors thesis. So that's like a senior capstone, but you do your own research project with a faculty advisor. And so I'm doing it on marine protected areas and how to pick or how to select certain coral reef areas that are most needed to be protected next. So that's something that's influenced me in my life choices, and hopefully will also influence my job search after college as well. And yeah, probably my most different experience was that one of the excursions during my classes was to another island, and off that island is one of the places where you can see whale sharks year round. So I was able to swim with 5 different whale sharks, which was super cool and a lifelong dream of mine. So it was definitely one of the best things I could have done, and I'm really grateful for my study abroad experience and that Gettysburg allows you to do that. So
Thank you so much, Meg. And then finally, I'll turn it over to Gari.
Hi, my name is Gara Mangala. I'm also a senior, and I'm from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of Trenton, New Jersey, and Philadelphia. So I'm majoring in anthropology and theater arts with a minor in Middle East and Islamic studies. On campus, I am the managing editor of the Gettysburgian. I'm the news director of WZBT. I'm really involved in our theater department, and I'm a house leader, so I'm a Res Life student leader. I studied abroad in Bath, England, which was really interesting because the program American ASC is run through Franklin and Marshall. So it attracts a lot of students that are studying at liberal arts colleges like Gettysburg. Also, the program is only currently runs humanities programs, so humanities and social sciences. So most of the people that you find there are people either studying things like English, history, in my case, theater. And so you find a lot of like-minded people. It's a small program. There's usually about 50 of us. My class had 42. But the thing that's really great about it is that the program really encouraged us to have an individualized experience. So there's opportunities for internships. Instead of taking a 4th class, you can take an internship, which I did. There's also a lot of opportunities to, join, rather than joining like clubs that the organization runs, to just find something in the city. And Bath is a city that's really active in terms of having, activities to do just amongst the citizens of the town. So there's a lot to do. I actually spent a lot of my time working. I never really left the city other than to see a couple shows in some neighboring towns. And I worked at a couple different theaters, and I ended up seeing about 50 different shows while I was abroad, which really made my experience great and taught me the kind of theater I want to make. Now I'm doing my capstone for my theater major, and I'm writing a play that's been incredibly informed by all the theater I saw when I was abroad. And it also taught me a lot about, managing a space, whether that be a theater or anything else, and how places like England really put a strong encouragement towards the arts. It's a place that I kind of want to go back to, maybe for grad school, and it definitely is a time of my life that I think I'm always going to remember.
Great. Thank you guys all so much for coming and sharing a little bit about your experiences. I know it's always really fun for me to hear from our return students about just the huge spectrum of different experiences that students have. You know, we have a huge variety of different programs where students are participating in internships, they're working in field work on site, they're conducting research, they're speaking or conducting their entire semester in a different language. It's a really there's really no shortage of programs that we work with and no one size fits all experience that students have. All three of these students who are speaking today are part of the Global Leaders of Gettysburg College, which is a organization run through the Center for Global Education for Return Global Studies students. So all three of these students are part of that organization and can serve as mentors for future cohorts of global studies students. So we work really closely with these students, and when we have upcoming like first year, sophomore, juniors who are interested in learning a little bit about the huge spectrum of different opportunities out there, we really rely on kind of our peer-to-peer mentoring network to, you know, really illustrate that variety of different experiences or why their peers are choosing to study globally as well. So I'm really glad that all three of you were here to share your very different experiences. So with that, I want to take a moment to sort of open it up for questions that anyone has. You are welcome to either unmute yourself or a small group, so you can unmute and ask your question to the group, or if you'd like, you can also enter your question in the chat as well, and I'll keep my eye on that. I'm happy to answer questions, and we can also direct questions to our students as well. Okay, great. So what is the first step in getting involved in and planning a semester abroad? So that is a great question. We've talked a lot about what that experience is like, but you might be kind of wondering how would I or my student actually do this? So the first step is definitely meeting with an advisor at the Center for Global Education. So you can request an appointment on our page on our website. I can actually bring this up and share my screen with you all. Here we go. So I'm going to share my screen. So if you are on the Gettysburg College main website and you search for Center for Global Education, your student can just scroll down here and click this blue button to make an appointment. So it'll be a little short form where students can share their availability. And then we'll schedule. At this point, CG advisors are working remotely, so we can meet with students via Zoom, over the phone, or we can also communicate back and forth via email as well. So the first step would be making that appointment to talk with an advisor. So at that advising appointment, we'll talk a little bit about that student's major, some of their personal, academic, professional goals for global study. And we'll also kind of start the process of talking about a lot of different programs, and we'll kind of through successive meetings and working collaboratively with that student's academic advisor, kind of narrow down until the student kind of feels pretty comfortable and confident in a choice of a more specific program. And then from there, we will we'll have a pre-departure orientation for students. We'll continue meeting with that student individually. We'll work with them and their program provider. And from there, it gets kind of more deeply into that process. But step one, meeting with a CG advisor for sure. Oh, yes. So the next question in the chat was, could you say a few words about global study in Norway, particularly for STEM majors? Absolutely. And I am particularly and personally thrilled to answer this question because I work really closely with both of Gettysburg's bilateral exchange programs with the University of Stavanger in southern Norway and the University of Tromsø in northern Norway. So both universities are degree granting institutions with anywhere between about 5 to 15,000 students. So our students, Gettysburg students that study at these programs, enroll directly in the University of Stavanger or the University of Tromsø. They're taking courses with degree-seeking students, and they're selecting their courses from both institutions' English taught course catalog. So both institutions are in a Norwegian-speaking country, but they also have a robust English taught course catalog. So for STEM majors in particular, we've had a significant number of physics majors, we've had some chemistry majors, a lot of biology majors who have studied at both the University of Stavanger and Tromsø. Both institutions have some kind of cool specialties. So for example, the University of Stavanger, Stavanger is, like I said, in southern Norway, and it's kind of the center of Norway's oil industry. So there's a lot of really cool environmental science courses there. There are some, they have actually an entire petroleum engineering department there. And then also I would say their physics department also kind of collaborates quite closely with the engineering department. In northern Norway in Tromsø, that program, Tromsø is located on an island surrounded by fjords in the Arctic Circle. So there's some really cool marine ecology courses. There's actually for physics, there's a lot of space physics research being done. Lots and lots of different opportunities, but we've also had students in the humanities and social sciences also study at both institutions too. I could talk a lot about Norway for a very long time, so I'm happy to go into more depth, or I can also share my contact information too to meet as well. So I always like to give a couple of minutes just in case anyone's typing. I know I can be a slow typer under pressure, so I want to make sure I can give people a little time to ask questions. Okay, so we have another question of what point in your Gettysburg career is it ideal to begin planning for a junior semester abroad? That is a great question. So the first answer is that it's never too early to start looking at a global studies semester. I have met with some students in their, like sometimes in their orientation week before they've even started classes. So it's never too early to make an appointment or meet via, in this case, via Zoom or over the phone with a CGE advisor. Generally, though, we would say it's good to, if you haven't met with a CGE advisor, it's good to come in about a year prior to the semester that you're planning to study globally. So if you or your student is thinking, okay, maybe fall semester of my junior year, I've met with my academic advisor and that seems like a good time to study globally. Then it would be good to make an appointment with CGE in the fall of your sophomore year. So then that way it gives you a long time to, for us to meet, to talk through different programs or goals and to kind of, have a long time in advance to plan. That being said, though, students can absolutely come in to talk about global study, even if it's, if you or your student kind of hadn't thought about global study until just recently. We have students that apply all the way up to our deadline date too. So when in doubt, it's great to reach out. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it does, and it's easy to remember. So while we're here, I'm going to add our general CGE email address into the chat feature. So then that way, if anyone does have questions that come up, or we end this session, or if you're watching this session later, you can always reach out to CGE via our email address, which is cge@gettysburg.edu. There we go. So we're always happy to answer questions. We're always happy to speak with students or family of students who who have questions about global study at any point.
I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Timothy. Thanks to all of our family guests today. I think that Kim and everyone on the CGE team are incredible resources for your student. Encourage them to make an appointment soon and begin to imagine the incredible possibilities that await them with a semester abroad or domestically off campus. So thanks so much.